So I'm quite a technical person. I've always been into like computers and programming and things like that. And this is a sort of problem space that I'm most familiar with, but it's also a problem space that has a lot of other technical people. And so if I do ever identify a problem, there's often already a solution out there that will handle that problem. And there's already a lot of really great tools that solve different issues in the space. This is why I really wish I had a background in something else that was like less technical, maybe something like healthcare or education or law or something in the government, because these are like spaces that are massively, massively underserved in terms of like tech, and they have really poor digitalization. And what that means is that if you're someone who is already in that space, but you still have like an inclination to build like technical solutions, that means that you have a massive, massive like unfair advantage over someone who is technical but doesn't have the domain knowledge that you already have. Like you might think that a technical person could more easily build a solution to whatever problem that you have, but the issue is that they won't actually know what the real problems are because they don't have first-hand experience like you do. Whereas you will probably have like actually felt the pains and the challenges, and you'll be more familiar with those problems and how best to solve them. Not only that, but like the problems you identify are going to be a lot more nuanced and more real, and the solutions that you can come up with are going to be a lot more practical and applicable to the people who are actually having those problems. This is why I love talking to like non-technical people and hearing about their problems and thinking about the technical solutions that we could maybe build for them. For example, I was talking to someone who runs a restaurant, and it was like super insightful to hear about how he manages things like the supply chain for his ingredients, and he just has like basically a spreadsheet that he was tracking all the different ingredients and how many he needs to order and when he needs to order them and things like that, and the different costs. Like he was happy with that solution, but that's clearly a thing that someone could build a product around potentially. Another space that I've spoken to some people in are government and healthcare, and these are places that they have so many different problems. Some of them are things that I wouldn't have even thought of. It really helps to think about the problems that you have and what kind of technical solutions you could potentially build for them. You might then think like you can't actually build those solutions. You know, you need a technical co-founder or you need someone who knows how to code to help you build your ideas. But nowadays that is like as false as it has ever been. This is absolutely not the case anymore. Nowadays, you just need to know some prompt engineering, be familiar and comfortable with using some AI tools, and you can basically build whatever you want. Like, for example, there's tools like Cursor that you can use, which is like a code editor that has AI integrations to help you code. There's also like Bolt.new and V0 from Vercel, which can help you like design apps and straight up build whole applications and host them. There's another one called Lovable, which does a very similar thing where it'll help you build MVPs and apps, and I think it even supports generating simple mobile applications. Like non-technical people used to get stuck at like who I need to find a technical co-founder. I need someone who knows how to code to help me build this project. But nowadays you don't need that. You can just start, right? Like AI won't be able to build a whole company for you or something like that, but it will definitely help you build your first like prototype or an MVP that you can then use to sort of validate your idea, and then you can sort of share that with someone who is technical to help you build like a more coherent and like professional version in the future. Another advantage actually is because you're non-technical, you don't have to learn how to code like a computer scientist or a software engineer does. You can just focus solely on solving the real world problems, and you don't have to think about things like code quality or best practices or anything like that when you're building your MVP. You can really just focus on solving real problems. And this is already happening, right? I've already have friends who didn't formally study how to code, but they're using tools like Cursor to build really impressive projects and even like deploy them online. They're just live websites. Anyone can go to their projects and try them out. Some people are doing like personal apps to just solve like specific problems personal to them, but other people are just building out straight up businesses and like selling the solutions that they're building. Another thing to consider is that if you're the only person in your field who knows how to code, and even if you know how to code just a little bit, or you're willing to use these AI tools to build solutions, you're going to have an unbelievable, massive advantage and be a lot more valuable than the people who don't know how to code, who just know about these problems but don't do anything about them. The biggest unfair advantage, in my opinion, especially if you're coming from a non technical space, is that if you do decide to take your project and turn it into a real business, people who are already in that space are going to be a far, far more receptive to you compared to someone who is coming from a technical or just a dev background, right? You know, like for example, let's say you're in healthcare and you work at a hospital and you're a doctor. If I go in there as a dev and I've built some random app, they're just going to tell me to get lost because I'm not a doctor, I'm not in the healthcare space. I've built an app and they don't really have any trust in me. But if you're actually a doctor who was worked in a hospital, and then you go and you build an app that helps you do your job, and then you try to sell that to your hospital, they're going to be far, far more receptive to you because you are someone who actually has experienced those problems, and they're going to have a lot more trust in the solutions that you build. So like the main takeaway here is like if you're non-technical and you're in a space that has a lot of different challenges and problems with maybe data or things like that, and there just aren't enough technical solutions for you, I think it's a great opportunity for you to think about what kind of things you could prototype and build to help with your problems. If you're a little bit technical, maybe you want to try out something like Cursor, which is like a IDE for writing code, and it has AI integrations to help you. If you're a bit less technical, you might want to try something like Lovable or Bolt. I have a link to all of these in the description so you can try them out. But like these will just let you sort of describe the app and describe the changes you want to make and help you iterate to build your application. And again, these don't have to be like really polished apps. They can just be MVPs to sort of prove an idea. And if you feel like there is traction there, then you can try to invest into like having this built out more professionally. At the end of the day, it's really important to just sort of build for the problems that you know and these real problems that you've experienced, because that way the solutions that you build are very practical. And even if no one decides to pay for your solution, it's still a solution for you, and it's something that you can use to give you an advantage in your job. If you do have any ideas or you're not quite sure how to get started, definitely join the local host Discord. There's a lot of technical people there and also non-technical people who can sort of guide you and share their experiences. And also, if you are working on new projects, you can share them there, get some feedback, get some technical help, and just get some initial users. I really want to see what type of things people are building.